It is arguably the most famous heist in Minnesota history, the theft of the Wizard of Oz ruby slippers from the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids back in 2005. It took 13 years for authorities to recover them. And now one of the investigators who cracked the case is giving us new exclusive details about one of the men involved. Lou Raguse has more on who authorities call one of the most prolific thieves in state history, his alleged ties to the mob, and the surprising informant who brought him down.
This was estimated between $4,000 and $5,000 for this wooden elephant sculpture.
A conference room turned evidence room at the Crystal Police Department.
These are all worth a couple thousand on their own.
Is filled with decades of stolen items.
Based on the numbers provided to me, it's about $390,000 worth of stolen merchandise.
All seized from the home of Jerry Soliderman.
This is what was taken on our first warrant, considered a boosting jacket. He would walk in, walk by a shelf, open it up, and just be able to jam stuff down in there.
One of the most prolific thieves in Minnesota history.
I would put him at the top.
Because he planned the state's most famous heist, the Wizard of Oz ruby slippers.
Even Jerry laughed about it. He was watching the morning news and they talked about the ruby red slippers being up in Grand Rapids and that they're insured for $1 million. He saw in the video there that it looked like it was an easy mark, as they say. And he called Terry and he said, let's go get these slippers. They look like they're real rubies.
Investigator TJ Tourville entered the case in 2023, 18 years after the slippers were stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids. The FBI had caught and charged Terry Martin, a lifelong criminal who admitted he smashed the museum door and snatched the poorly secured Hollywood artifacts. But the feds suspected Martin was just a henchman, and they needed the help of police in Crystal, where Soliderman lived, to prove he was the mastermind.
They had gone through, tried to talk to Soliderman, tried to talk to any of the people surrounding Soliderman, and weren't getting anywhere.
Investigator Tourville started with a search warrant to find specific stolen artwork they knew was in Soliderman's house.
Judge signed it, went back the next day, served that search warrant at, I think it was about 10:46 in the morning. All the items were gone.
Soliderman was apparently somehow tipped off about confidential information in the search warrant before Crystal Police got to the 76-year-old's house.
Has that ever happened to you before?
Never.
And what did it tell you?
It told me that there was something weird going on with this case. The FBI is telling me, like, he's connected to the mob. Jerry had people everywhere.
It kind of sounds like a movie.
It does sound like a movie. This whole thing sounds like a movie.
Researching Soliderman's past, Tourville learned he was a career thief, busted in the 1980s for running a complex, organized retail theft ring with mafia ties tracing back to his father. The big break linking Soliderman to the ruby slipper case came when a co-conspirator in 4,500 of his other thefts started talking.
This person opened up the door to the entire ruby red slippers case, where they were, how they were taken, and who was involved.
Public court documents revealed the co-conspirator was Soliderman's wife. Carol Levin isn't naming her because she was never charged with a crime. Tourville considers her a victim.
When you're being told, I know people that hurt people. I know people that can hurt you. I mean, it's constant fear.
The woman told Tourville that after the theft, Soliderman hid the ruby slippers for years in their garden.
They were buried over here.
Where neighbors suspected absolutely nothing.
It was kind of strange because at the time he said, well, you know, hey, I think someone is stealing my tomatoes, so I'm thinking about putting up some motion sensor cameras up here in back. And I'm like, that's weird, but okay.
With the info from Soliderman's wife, Crystal Police returned to the home with the FBI, who arrested Soliderman. And finally, he told the story.
Jerry stayed in the car. Terry ran in, just broke in the back door, took the slippers, ran back out, handed them to Jerry, and Jerry stuck them down the front of his pants.
Did he seem to enjoy telling this story?
Loved it, every second.
The FBI already had the slippers when Soliderman confessed. 6 years earlier, Soliderman used high-profile Twin Cities defense attorney Joe Friedberg to try to collect reward money from the company that insured the slippers. Soliderman claimed Friedberg got greedy and wanted more money for himself.
During my interview with Jerry, he stated that of the people involved, they're each going to get a cut. And then Friedberg doubled it. They questioned him as to why are you doubling this, and he said he's the one taking the most risk, so he's going to get twice the money.
That prompted the FBI to pose as the insurance company and trick Friedberg into trying to sell the slippers to them. Friedberg was never charged, and he died last year. Among the other twists and turns in this Hollywood-esque investigation, Crystal Police bought a UV sanitizer being sold by one of Slitterman's relatives that he used to remove his and Martin's DNA from the slippers.
And the FBI found red fibers within that UV sanitizer. I had a confidential informant tell me that those slippers were rubbed on an escalator at Rosedale Mall. I had Jerry himself say those slippers, they were rubbed inside of a McDonald's garbage can to try and get other people's DNA on it. So you think about these precious slippers, and they've been rubbed on gross places.
Those who knew Slitterman on a surface level didn't have him pegged as a movie character come to life.
Did he ever talk about like how he made his money or what he did for a career or anything like that?
All he said about his past is, it was all in investments.
Investments is one way to put it.
The FBI art team estimated that to be valued at about $100,000.
Investigator Tourville doubts we'll see another thief like Slitterman in Minnesota.
That was given to Slitterman to pay off a debt.
An old school, mafia connected art thief, the kind of criminal that's quite literally a dying breed.
Jerry Slitterman was a gangster till the day he died.
Now, Jerry Slitterman died in March as he was scheduled to plead guilty to the ruby slipper theft. Crystal Police had agreed not to pursue charges for their part of the case as part of that deal. Slitterman's daughter says that he was a thief, but that he was not a monster. She says that she had a good relationship with him and he had a good relationship with his grandkids.
It's just unbelievable. And you think that house is so unassuming. And I guess because of the movies, you think a mobster is going to have this fancy lifestyle. But
Right.
did he live pretty under the radar like
Yeah,
that?
the neighbors thought so, but
Yeah.
one thing that his wife said is that they stole every single day. And so at CVS, they would go there every day, fill that jacket with things, never paid for a single toothbrush or stick of deodorant in his life.
That is crazy. So the stuff on the table, do you know where he was selling that or how much that stuff was
That's
worth?
the
or-
stuff that he wasn't able to sell. And so
Okay.
now Crystal Police are going to auction it off, and that's a story I'm going to cover. Because
can't wait.
ironically, there was an auction just like it in the 80s when Slitterman was busted before. The Star Tribune
wow.
covered that auction. When they did the search warrant at his house, they found that article he kept as a souvenir.
Oh my gosh.
So are the
what a
slippers
story.
back in Grand Rapids?
No, they've been auctioned off, and they sold for $28 million. The buyer had to pay $32.5 million to get them.
Wow.
So, yeah, they are quite valuable.
And that was a story that the museum was going to try to get them back, but
Right.
didn't they admit
They knew,
probably don't
they,
have a
knew
chance?
they didn't have the money.
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah, it's
they,
just
or the
like-
security.
They took advantage
Just
of
a
the
little
publicity.
house in
though.
Grand Rapids
Yeah.
next to
Yeah.
the
I've been there.
169. Me
It's
too.
fun. It's fun.
Me too. It's really fun.
Great
But
story.
that
Thank
is an
you.
amazing
Thank you,
story.
Lou.
Wow. Lots of twists and turns, Lou.
Absolutely.